All right, welcome back to the series to turn this car into a race car. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and pull the roof off, remove the rear package tray, and just finish prepping the inside of the car, the interior of the car for the roll cage, so that in the next episode we can start installing the track spec roll cage. All right, let's jump in.
All right, so I was a dum-dum and forgot to record an intro for this section, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm laying tape down here for my edge, and then I'm cutting this main part of the package tray out so I have better access to the rest of it and keep it nice and simple. And I left a little bit of a ledge there right where the blue tape is so that I could attach my firewall in the future.
As we can see here, I've gone ahead and cut kind of the main centerpiece out of the package shelf. The next step is going to be to cut down here along the bottom, as well as drill all of these spot welds out. I've gone ahead and drilled a couple out with the normal drill bit or the normal drill, but I don't have access to most of them due to their location. So we're going to give a shot here with this Milwaukee right angle drill, which will allow us to work in a little bit tighter spot. If that doesn't work, I do have a detail belt sander on the way that will be able to grind through the rest of the ones that I'm not able to get. I'm hoping I don't have to use that as much, if at all, because it will be a little harder to ensure that I don't go through to the layer under, or the metal that's underneath. But we'll give it a shot and see what we can do. I might have to break out the cutoff wheel and kind of break this up a little bit, just because getting access to all the various spot welds, they go up here, through here, up in there, and it's just really hard to get access, and there's some that are kind of tucked up against the body here. So we're just going to see what we can do and kind of work through this and see what it takes.
So I gave my right angle drill a try here, and it just wasn't working to my satisfaction. So I went back to my original strategy here of pulling out the angle grinder and dismantling this piece by piece. So I went in and attacked this first center part here. I cut around the structure here, drilled out the sides, and then I was able to pry it off. And then I went and cut these sides off on both ends, and this gave me nice, easy access here, as you can see, for these side parts where it was still attached to the body. Then I went and cleaned this little trim piece up here. This was super tedious. There were a ton of little spot welds, but it was going to give me a nice clean install. And then after this, I went and I did the other side. Same exact thing, same process, just done to the other side.
All right, so for the roof here, as far as I understand, we're going to explore it slowly just so I can confirm. But as far as I understand, we have these spot welds that we need to remove. We need to drill these out along the front. And then same thing here along the back. As you can see, they're every couple inches around there. And that disconnects it from the front and rear part of the roof structure. And then I don't know if it's glued or welded right here. You can see I've started to dig around a little bit, and if you look really close, there is seam sealer in this area, but this appears to be welded when I scratch it. So I'm going to start to drill these out and just start to peel the roof up a little bit, and then depending on how that goes, I might cut down the roof a certain, like cut a big square out of the roof so I can get access to this part, cut it way over, because I need to cut it so that the carbon fiber replacement roof I put on it has the ability to mate up against the structure on the sides of the roof at the right spot. So I'm going to be quite generous in my initial cut here, and then we'll see how it goes. But first things first, I'm going to go ahead and start drilling out these spot welds across the front and the rear.
So this was pretty straightforward, just hole punch everything to get a nice center, and then go ahead and follow it up with the drill bit and try to only drill out that top layer.
All right, so that was quite easy with the exception of you just have to be real careful to not go too deep. As you can see, the thickness of the metal here, one, the roof is very, very thin, as you can see. And then two, it changes depending on where you're at. So for example, there's 3 layers of what looks like maybe, 14 gauge metal or something along those lines. And then something nice and skinny like 22 gauge here. And then it's, just the 2 layers here, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to be really careful when you're drilling your spot welds here. Some of them are probably a little too deep, but one of the things I found to be really helpful is I take my super cheap wood chisel and I'd get it under here and I'd get it close, and then when I would break through, it would pop it up. So it helped me try not to go too deep. The other thing too, I'll show once I get the back up and I can get a little more pressure in there with some light, but I can see now what it looks like in there, and I think I got an idea how to cut this off. So I'm gonna head to the back and do the rears, and then we'll come back up and do the front. Or I should say, come back up and start to cut down the sides.
Same process as the front here, just hole punch everything a few times and then chase it with the drill bit here and pry everything up as you go to make sure you're, drilling the right depth.
All right, so ready for roof removal. So just for context on how to get this off, is there are a bunch of spot welds here in the front and then a bunch here on the back. I've gone through and drilled all of those out. So we're now ready to work on the sides, and then the skin for the roof will come right off. Just for context of what this looks like, as I started to peel this corner up, given the fact that I don't need to reuse the roof and it's okay if I wreck it, I wanted to peel up the corner to see if I could see what the structure looks like under there. And I'll do my best to see if I can make it clear for you guys. But basically, if you see right there, I'll put a little arrow on the screen pointing at 2. But basically, the roof is rolled over like this, like there's a roll in it like this, and then this roll is stitch welded to the roof structure. So what we need to do is we need to cut through just this top layer here. I'm gonna cut, fairly close to this because we don't want a whole lot of hangover in the way, but basically 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off of this seam here, cut through here down both sides. We want to do that down both sides of the roof. That'll get the roofs, the main roof skin out of the way and allow us to get access to those spot welds, because then we will drill out those spot welds down both sides, pull off the remaining layer of the roof, and then and clean that surface up, and we'll have a nice clean surface to then attach the carbon fiber roof panel to when we go to reinstall it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the cutoff wheel and get started on that. I'm probably gonna tape some things off first, so I'm gonna clean it off, but then I'm gonna go ahead and grab the cutoff wheel. You could also use like a Dremel for this, although in my experience the Dremel cuts so slow. It is more precise, but it cuts super slow. I don't think this is going to be too much of a challenge, so I'm going to use the big cutoff wheel because it'll just be a lot more efficient. All right, let's get started.
So you're probably wondering why I go ahead and tape this if I'm repainting the car, and in all honesty, it gives me a nice straight line to use as a reference as I'm using the cutoff wheel. So that's the only reason. I didn't care about the paint. Once these were cut, I was able to peel the roof skin right off.
All right, so got the roof skin off. Just for those curious, the roof skin's just about 10 pounds, like 9.9 pounds. So it's more or less 10 pounds. 2 things I forgot. There were 2 spot welds underneath this light here, and like an idiot, I just completely forgot to remove the light. So all the light is held in by is these 4 nuts, which I had already taken off. So literally all I would have had to have done is pop these and push the light out, and I would have been fine. So remove the light, and then there were 2 additional spot welds, like I said, underneath it that you have to access. As far as the rest of it, super easy. I just cut, like I said, along this the seam here on the top skin, and then I didn't realize this, but it makes sense, and I should have known that the roof is also glued in. So when you get all that cut, you're gonna have to pry it up. For those wondering, I don't think there's a way to get the roof skin off without completely wrecking it. Even if you were able to re-weld this and fix that gap, you're gonna bend the crap out of it and crease it trying to get it up from here. I mean, if you were ultra super duper careful, you might be able to get it up if you can figure out a way to get the pressure under here to pry this up, maybe some heat, but you're likely to burn the paint and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think there's a way to do it, but there might be with someone who's creative enough. So the only thing left for me is to figure out how I want to tackle these seams here. I thought these were spot welded. I was totally wrong about that. There's no spot welding, as you can see, and I actually found that the only place it's connected is here. Let me see if I can get you some light. At this, I don't know how well it's showing up, but that bronze coloring, I don't know exactly what it is, whether it's brazed or but anyway, there's some type of bonding that bonds the roof skin to the main structure here. And I pried around, you can see here actually where I pried underneath. It's not connected in this part. It's only at this top seam where it's connected. My guess is it's brazed together or some form of witchcraft or sorcery like that. But either way, this is still very firmly attached to the roof structure, and it will need to be removed in order to put the carbon fiber roof on. I don't have my carbon fiber roof yet, so I can't show you exactly what it looks like. I will see if I can find an image or some video from a friend that has done this so you can see what it looks like. But essentially, the roof is just like the skin, carbon fiber roof is just like the skin I just removed, where it goes, down, and then it basically goes like that. And this part that's, at this angle rests, on this seam. So this will need to be removed. If you are doing this without repainting your car, unlike me, this is going to be the most stressful part of the process, because you're going to have to get very, very close here and then grind it down. In all honesty, my recommendation would be probably to get a Dremel, because you just want to go really slow. Take this main lip off and then get like a little, it could be the little drum sander on the Dremel or some similar type of miniature sanding tool to very slowly kind of work your way down. For most people, I would recommend not attacking this until you have your carbon fiber roof in your hands. Unfortunately, due to my build process and kind of like how elongated it is, I will not have my carbon fiber roof before I need to paint the car, which could bite me later, but we're just going to have to see what we're just going to have to work with what we can. This is a race car. I'm not looking for perfect fitment. If this was a car that was still going to be on the street and I need that absolute perfect rain tight, perfect paint fitment, absolutely wouldn't do it. But since this is a race car, I'm a little more willing to have panel gaps that are filled by bond, 3M panel bond and stuff like that. So I'm not too worried about it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get a Dremel and cut through that and then start to work my way sanding it down. So that's what I'm going to jump into next.
All right, so I started here with a Dremel and a little cutoff wheel, and as you can see, I went through 3 cutoff wheels and didn't even make it halfway through. So afterwards, after the 3, I went straight to my full-size cutoff wheel, and even then, if you look closely here, you can see how fast it's chewing through it. So I'm pretty sure this is brazed together, but I don't know for sure. The only thing I know is it's definitely not steel, and it's definitely not any type of compound like epoxy or anything like that. Either way, it's very tedious.
All right, so here's what we're looking at. We got that ledge mostly gone. We just got to do a little bit of grinding in here. As you saw about halfway through, I switched to the normal cutoff wheel, and the reason being is I went through 3 of these little cutoff wheels right here. Whatever this bronze stuff is made out of is really, really hard on the cutoff wheels. Even even on my big cutoff wheel, it took about an inch off just doing the bit I did here. So that was very time consuming and definitely slow work. But keep in mind, if you're doing this and not repainting your car, you definitely want to do it with the Dremel, because you just have so much more control. I did nick the paint a couple areas, nothing that like went into the metal, just took the top coat off, which won't be an issue for me because the car will get repainted, but would really suck if you weren't repainting your car. Now I'm coming over to this side. Based on something I learned on the other side, I'm peeling this kind of inner layer up, because one of the things I found is it was hard to tell with the cutoff wheel if I had made it just through this top part that was a part of the original door skin or roof skin, or if I had gone all the way through and gotten down to this part too, because you have to get behind the whole thing. So I went up and peeled this up just with my my wood chisel. It was super easy. It's really pliable stuff, so that's easy to do. So that's a tip. If you're going through and doing exactly what I'm doing, peel this up. But again, I want to reiterate, I don't recommend cutting any more than I don't recommend going that far unless you have your roof panel in hand to see how far you actually need to go, because it'll vary manufacturer to manufacturer, or whether they did their measurements for this here all the way down to this seam, or if they're doing it just from cutting off this part and it wants to sit on this lip. So you are at some risk doing what I'm doing here, but like I said, my project roadmap and length of time doesn't really allow me to do the roof panel, or allow me to have the roof panel before I need to paint the car. Just so I'm just going to work with what I get. But if you are going as far as me, these tips will help. All right, so I'm going to jump into this side and see if we can hopefully make it a little easier and a little faster.
All right, so peeling that up did the trick. It was super easy to go through here and do the last little bit of cleanup. Afterwards, I went and grabbed my various types of sanders and just went and smoothed out all the areas where I had, drilled through the spot welds, where I had drilled through the roof skin. So I'm just running around the car now, smoothing things out, making it, nice and respectable and smooth. I don't know how far I'll go once it comes time to actually paint the car, but I just wanted to make sure I removed all the hard edges, the sharp edges, and that kind of stuff. So,
all right, so only like 200 spot welds later, that was quite a bit of work. Definitely more than I expected, just a lot more spot welds than I expected. But fortunately, they all came out, no catastrophes, nothing too crazy. Pretty happy with how the way it came out. Just a reminder, if you're going to go ahead and do this yourself, meaning pull the roof off and replace it with a carbon fiber piece, definitely get the carbon fiber roof that you're planning to put on your car before you cut the old one off. And unless you're like me and doing a bunch of other bodywork at the same time, because things like filler and panel bond and all that kind of stuff can fill my gap. And mine's a race car, so I don't really care. But if you're doing something a higher end show build or anything like that, definitely don't do it the way I did, where you take it all off at once. Wait till you get the carbon fiber roof that you're putting on. All right, next episode, we'll be tackling the roll cage. I got a beautiful track spec roll cage over here just waiting to go in the car. I'm super excited to install it. So hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.